Joined now by NHL insider from the Frankly Speaking podcast and the Daily Faceoff, Mr. Frank Seravalli, in the studio before he heads to Edmonton for Game 6. How you doing?
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good as Vancouver today.
No.
Can you, I know that this sounds funny and or 18 months ago insanely far-fetched, but walking out of the arena last night, through the viaducts, stopped in park, any tap room around the city, just chants of JT Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how insane that would have been when, the Canucks were flirting with Pittsburgh and trading him.
Yep.
When I couldn't do this show without there being some talk about the anvil that the Canucks were carrying around in JT Miller and a contract that hadn't even kicked in yet.
Yeah, it was controversial at the time. And all because of the guy that eventually got his contract, whom everybody is wincing at. Although Pettersson was better last night. To be sure.
Isn't the real decision, didn't it come down to Miller or Horvat?
Correct.
And it was, then to compound it, it was Horvat with 26 goals by December 25th.
Yeah.
At a time when Miller's production slid and everyone's like, oh my God, did we make the wrong choice? How's that feel now?
Yeah.
They made the right call.
They made
the right call.
And at a decent price too for now. I mean,
this is a 99-point scorer. This is, I did the math on this. Since JT Miller joined the Vancouver Canucks, 11th in league scoring, 402 points, 22 more than Sidney Crosby. Maybe he's just Mr. Misunderstood.
Well, he's not anymore.
In fairness, he's changed a lot, Frank.
Yeah, not anymore.
On the ice and off the ice here, and has talked about it.
He grew up a lot.
Yeah, he sure did.
And guess what? Rick Tocchet deserves a lot of that.
Oh, for sure.
Compliments of that, because he was the Phil Kessel whisperer in Pittsburgh. And we all said the day he took the job, if he could just find a way to harness the energy and the raging competitive fire that burns in JT Miller, like, this guy has a live edge, and to his own admission has been a pain in the ass and has been at times to his teammates just absolutely relentless. But if you can channel that get a game like last night.
But look at those two post-game comments from one game to the next. The accountability after game number 4.
The text message to Tocchet.
The text message to Tocchet. And then what you heard last night after the game. I mean, that's just a guy saying, I'm going to clean my stuff up and be better. And he was.
It's, again, perspective and time. I'm not sure that any of those players, and I talked to Tyler Myers about this after the game, I'm not sure that any of those players that have waded through the swamp of negativity and toxic energy that had circulated through this organization the last number of years, even in their wildest dreams, could have squinted hard enough and seen the Canucks knock off the Oilers to take a 3-2 series lead in which they've never trailed in the series, have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the ropes, and of all people, JT Miller his name is echoing through the building, and they're trying to prop up Elias Pettersson.
Yep. What'd you make of the game?
I thought it was by far the Canucks' best effort of the postseason. I thought that game made me a believer. And I know that's going to sound funny to say for someone that picked the Canucks in round 1, but I've been waiting through some of these circus-like wins, and wins that, frankly, the Canucks never really had any business winning, some of them.
You're not alone.
No, fair.
I would say that one, full marks. They earned every ounce of that. They flipped the script, and they were the team whose stars outworked Edmonton stars. They were the team that took the adjustments and tweaks in this chess match that Rick Tocchet and Chris Knobloch have been playing, and they were the ones that implemented all of them. To be the aggressor as opposed to the team that sits back, that's worth its weight in gold. But there's a fine line.
So when you say believer, you mean what?
I mean, this is a team that they obviously had something special in the belief that they had, the ability to continue to come back. But I think for the longest time in this series, and my thought process to this point has been, and this may still end up being true, the Oilers' ceiling is a lot higher than Vancouver's. But when you're able to assert your will, like the way that they did in Game 5, that's really powerful and can change the dynamic of that. And look, they've got Edmonton on the ropes, and this is probably an Edmonton team that has heard a lot of the same things that we've all been talking about for the last number of months. This Vancouver team can't win. They're an inferior team on paper. You have to learn how to win. You don't just, go on a deep run in the playoffs in your first crack at it. And that's kind of exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, after watching, Blake said it last night in our post game, and we heard this a lot going into the series. Think Vancouver can win the series, but don't think Vancouver can win the cup. And they play like that. Who knows?
Changed it a little bit.
They're going to have a puncher's chance if they play like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to take you on with that question, the quote about the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
They have by far the two best players in the series. Of that, there's no doubt. I mean, this Edmonton defense and goaltending, I mean, they can score defensively, but actually defending defensively, I don't see how they win a cup with that defense and goaltending. And to me, Vancouver's far superior on those two fronts.
How? I mean, just look at the numbers. Entering Game 5, the Oilers have given up the fewest high danger chances, the fewest scoring chances, and the fewest expected goals against of any team in the entire playoffs. Of the 10 that were remaining heading into Thursday night, or I guess 9 after the Hurricanes were gone.
I just see the Canucks cycle, and that soft spot on the circle is seemingly always available. Besser and Garland have been there all series long.
You think the Canucks have created enough inside in the slot this series to actually make that?
No, but I think that's user error. That space is there.
That's just bad goaltending. That's not. Look, even consider.
That's what he said, though.
Yeah, defense and goaltending. Yeah.
Well, the goaltending's a little bit different, I think, than the defense. I think as a team, they've actually defended exceptionally well. Consider, and this is kind of the misnomer that's existed around the Oilers, I believe, is consider, even just Game 4, okay? Mm-hmm. The Canucks have another one of those comebacks and almost pulled a game out of their ass that they had no business winning. Tie it up with 1:41 to go. Think about the 2 goals that went in. Garland from distance with a Joshua screen in front, and then another one off of a shin pad from the side. No one is looking at those saying, oh, those are quality chances that the Canucks generated. The Canucks didn't have anything going in that entire area of the ice, which is why when you see Pettersson get involved in the mix in Game 5 and you see a lot of these other guys find a way to create, that was the difference. But to say that Edmonton can't defend, I think if they lose this series, it's because Stuart Skinner couldn't stop a puck.
I think the Canuck forward lines have just been watered. They try in an effort to create depth. I think we're talking watered down the top 9.
Ironically enough, the fourth line ends up being maybe your best line.
Ironically, totally. But I just think with any semblance of chemistry, I think guys like Cody Ceci can be infiltrated with regularity.
Okay, but you're picking Kulak, the worst. Dude, Kulak has been maybe their best defenseman the last 3 games. He's been unbelievable. So I get what you're saying about Ceci, but if you want to pick at any team's 6th defenseman, where he is right now, the 6th of 6, and probably shouldn't be in the lineup.
Desharnais, come on.
I think you're vastly underestimating the Oilers and how they've defended. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it right at that. Okay. And if you want to pick at something about Edmonton, and I agree. Look, I think from a holistic point of view, I would say that almost universally, everyone watching this series says whatever team comes out of it is going to have their lunch handed to them next round.
Potentially, yeah.
Dallas a hell of a team, and Colorado's pretty good as well. And of course have cup pedigree from a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Since we're talking about Edmonton's goal prevention, Who do you anticipate starts game 6?
I would go back to Stuart Skinner. I know that's not a popular decision, but again, if we're going to talk about ceiling, Stuart Skinner's ceiling is way above Cal Pickard's. And Pickard has played fine. There is nothing to say for a guy that's a 32-year-old journeyman that stepped in to these last 2 games, not just making his first career Stanley Cup playoff start, but playing back-to-back games for the first time all season long.
2 bad goals, 1 bad goal per game, but really he hasn't been chief amongst the reasons they lost.
But I think if the Oilers are going to get to a spot, and again, we're thinking further down the line and big picture view, and this only has to be about who gives you the best chance to win 1 game. They're going to have to go back to Skinner at some point if they have any prayer of competing in the next round. So it might be the time now to rip that Band-Aid off and go back to it.
Speaking of goalies, Thatcher Demko, what's the latest there?
Thatcher Demko, there seemed to be some kind of speculation that was wafting on Thursday because he wasn't out there for the morning skate. Did this guy have a setback? What's going on? I'm told that is not the case. Everything is very positive. He has taken shots 4 consecutive days in a row. Friday, today, the 17th, would be the 5th day in a row. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him at the team's morning skate on the ice at Rogers Place in Edmonton on Saturday. I think Saturday's not happening. He's still got some more work to do. But if there is a game 7, there's a very real possibility we see Thatcher Demko.
Would that be the wrong choice?
Not in my mind.
If it's a game 7, you're coming off a loss. I mean,
not for me. And Shelovs has been good. Like, again, just like Pickard, there's nothing to really say, hey, there's a reason why you're yanking him. It's purely about pedigree and the best chance to win 1 game. And if you can take a Vezina Trophy finalist, one of the 3 or 5 best goalies in the league, and you're telling me that he can injure himself any further and he's good to go, I know that he's only played 3 times in the last 2 months, it feels like. But I'm putting Thatcher Demko in the net.
Ilya Mikheyev, apparently it wasn't a purely coach's decision that there might be a health matter there. What do you know?
I saw the report from Murph that he's banged up. My thought process would be Ilya Mikheyev is where scoring chances have gone to die these playoffs, and he just looks totally lost. That if there was a health concern, it actually should have been a coach's decision. But the point being, because he was a participant in morning skate, he obviously could have played had there, you know, whatever minor, the situation was. The coach's decision was the appropriate decision. And by the way, I know we gave him some flowers already, but that coaching staff and the adjustments that they've made in this chess match game to game, you think back to game 2 and the way that the Oilers absolutely fed the Canucks in the 3rd period. Well, remember in game 3 when the Oilers had the puck again forever and they didn't really generate much because Vancouver was able to kill more plays. Every time they've found a way to make an adjustment to put this team in the best position to win.
It was a Jack Adams performance during the season. It's been a Conn Smythe performance in the postseason for Rick Tocchet and his staff.
Everything he's touched has gone to goal.
Yeah, quite right. And incidentally, the underlings are pretty kind to Mikheyev. It's the damnedest thing when you're looking at.
That's what makes your head explode.
No,
because
exactly.
You watch him and he has zero confidence, and he looks like someone that anytime he even gets the puck and it's in close, it's like he's aiming for the chest.
Well, it's like he has a broken wrist. It's like he can't get any velocity on the shot or raise it above the goaltender. But at the same time, I think he's a neutral player. Like, I don't think he causes bad things either. So
I didn't feel like he was hurting them a whole lot. But needless to say,
Hoglander, Podkolzin, all those guys were way better last night than Mikheyev has been at any point.
I know you got to run here so quickly. How much money is Nikita Zadorov making himself this postseason?
It's hard to answer that question because if he is getting paid, and by the way, like, he thinks he's getting somewhere in the 6 times 6 range. if that's the case, there's some serious recency bias to this. And that's generally what happens when it comes to the free agent market.
Yeah.
That is how life works. He's been a force. He's been incredibly impressive, but he's also scored goals that, if we're all being totally honest, probably had no business going in at times. Nonetheless, they have, and the moments have been magical. And he's lifted this team at times when they've desperately needed it and provided the edge that's required to win in the playoffs. So I think he's been a fantastic fit. I'd have real reservations about giving him that kind of AAV. I guess I'm not as concerned about the term, because look at someone like Myers and how well, the term of his deal aged. I mean, again, another guy where steps into this market and everyone, he's being picked apart from the day he arrived. And now Tyler Myers, everyone's like, oh, we got to re-sign this guy.
Well, it's the best hockey he's ever played, though, in his 6th year. So you're right, it did age, but the middle part was rather mucky.
But the point is with Zadorov, if he's the same age as when Myers signed his deal, also a big guy, if you sign him to a 6-year deal, maybe at 34, he's just fine.
Yep, it's possible.
But I'd want to really drive the AAV down if you're going to do that. And I think at that point, it's going to come down to total dollars. And are the Canucks going to have the best offer?
Lastly, Frank, earlier in the year, somebody in the know had mentioned to us that Vernon's Ken Holland, general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, was on the final year of his contract, was going to play it out, that both sides sort of understood that this would be it and that Kenny would retire to Predator Ridge as a Hockey Hall of Famer, and that's that. Now I read people connecting them to Columbus. What do you know about the Oilers GM and where he might wind up after the year?
I don't think it's top of mind for him right now, but
to say the least.
I do think that there's a very small percentage and likelihood that Ken Holland is back with the Oilers next season. And I don't mean back, like he could be some kind of advisor, I guess, but he's not going to be the GM of this team moving forward. Mm-hmm. Who that is, I think, is another giant question for the offseason. But what's surprising to me about Columbus is this was first sort of dripped out there in February at the All-Star break. And the surprising part about the Blue Jackets and the way that this is all unfolded is we haven't heard any names linked to them.
That's it. I mentioned that to Blake the other day. I'm like, Columbus is still looking for a GM. Haven't heard
usually
anything
at this
about
point,
that.
guys are dying to get their name connected to it.
Right.
And have been interviewed and have gone through the process. I've called a couple people that have been rumored to be on the list, and almost universally, they've all said, I haven't heard from Columbus at all. Mm-hmm. And so my thought process is, if that is the case, then Columbus must have their guy.
Right.
And they're just waiting for the playoffs to end. If not, we're at May 17th. The NHL draft is 6 weeks away. Not to mention all the other trading you could do between now and then. You would think that a team that has known for months that they have a vacancy, that they would be further down the track than this.
Yeah.
But
if they hire the new guy, and they have to.
But they have a president. This is the part I can't understand. They have a president, in John Davidson. So would like people saying, "Oh, Ken Holland will be the president of hockey ops." Okay, but then you still have to hire a GM. And where's JD going?
Right. And do you change the coach and become like the 50th vacancy of the season?
I think whoever's going in has to change the coach.
I agree.
I think Pascal Vincent, he appeared to be way over his.
And he was a placeholder.
Yeah. And he's not meshing with the young players.
No.
Like, whoever's going in there has to have patience and let the young players grow. Like Kent Johnson, for example.
You can't be on day 16 of your first year as a head coach ever in the NHL and saying, quote, this is getting really old.
I said that about working with Matt, but
but that's deserved at least.
And Frank knows a thing or two about old. Frank Seravalli, everybody, NHL Insider. Enjoy Edmonton, buddy.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.